This is Spare Time Repair, and this is Tape Tuesday, a new occasional midweek series featuring tape-based audio devices. First up is this Lafayette 8-track player, which was donated to me by a viewer who does estate clearances. This item wasn't selling for him, so he asked if I'd like to use it on the channel. There's no date on the label, but I believe this player was produced around 1970. It's in pretty good condition given its age and should clean up nicely. The fault was apparently that the playhead was stuck on track 4 and wouldn't advance, but it seemed fine when I tested it. Maybe a bumpy journey in a mail truck was all it needed. I couldn't get any sound out of it though, so there's still work to be done. It's been a while since I worked on something that doesn't play CDs. Can't see myself getting into 8 tracks though, but I have worked on an 8-track player before, so I've got a basic understanding of how they work. Well, it does look remarkably similar to the other one I looked at. I suppose there wasn't a great deal of variation in them. And I think the donor said it had a new belt. And yeah, that certainly looks new. That capstan flywheel is spinning quite nicely. And who needs a PCB when you can just daisy chain components together? This here looks like the bridge rectifier. A couple of caps. I mean, what else do you need? I'm going to try and remove the front panel because you can't really see what's going on in here from the top. And I like how they've helpfully labelled the door just in case you weren't sure where to put the cartridge. Not a lot of plastic going on in here, all metal construction. It's got a couple of screws in the bottom. We can see the different coloured lenses for the track lights. Might be able to sand out these scuff marks. So now we can see inside, and the playhead looks pretty clean actually. That capstan less so. And it's interesting that the light for track 2 looks different to the others. I think it's because this blue lens is darker, and therefore it's got this reflector built in to maximise the light output. So 8-track players are very simple. You insert the cartridge to turn the unit on, which in this case is done by this micro switch here. Then you have these 2 contacts here, and there's a piece of foil on the tape itself. So when that foil passes over these contacts and bridges them, it advances the playhead up 1 notch, which plays the next track on the tape. So let's check that that is indeed working okay. So if we press in this switch, and if we bridge these contacts, the playhead should move. If I zoom out a bit, you can see the lights changing as it does so. And that track advance can also be done manually by pressing the button on the front. So operationally there doesn't appear to be a lot wrong with this, but it probably hasn't been serviced in a long time, so it would be a good idea to do that. So we've got this hatch on the bottom for that purpose. Well, we do have a PCB, and they didn't skimp on the solder, did they? And this looks like a date code on the bottom of the motor, 1971. So that's 54 years as I record this. And this is the solenoid that's responsible for moving the tape head. So I'm going to take that belt off, and I need to release this capstan, which may be easier said than done. In fact, in here you can see there's a circlip. If I spin it round, so I think I just need to remove that. Well, I say just. I can't get any pliers in there. I do have this needle tool, which I could possibly use down here. I can't get the right angle on it. There's some gunk on here that may be the original belt. Looks like it. Some down here as well. Well, I've half got that clip off using these long nose pliers. I can just get my pry bar in there. Oh, well, it's off. Whether I'll ever find it is another matter. But this should now lift out. And there's the washer. Ooh. There's the remnants of some old tape. So that's good. As well as cleaning this up, we've now got full access to the playhead. So I'm just going to check if that micro switch needs cleaning. No, nothing wrong with that. Just going to clean inside this bushing. And this is probably grease rather than dirt. That playhead already looks clean. And the head itself is moving freely, although there is a bit of belt residue on here. Actually, given that that residue was between here and here, that might have been what was keeping the head stuck. I'm just going to remove as much of that as I can. Yeah, it may have just welded itself to the back there. I think this is belt goop as well. Still lots of belt residue on this pulley, which isn't going to make a huge amount of difference. You're not going to worry too much about wow and flutter on an 8-track, but you might as well remove it. fact, I'm going to use a brass polishing wheel on this, which should make short work of it. Well, that's looking better. And for the capstan, I'm just going to use some fine sandpaper. It's actually got a piece of acrylic or something embedded in the end, just where it pivots as a wearing point. So I'm just going to work my way around the outside, trying to get rid of this corrosion. Well, that's cleaner and smoother. And I know I didn't need to do the top, but I thought I would anyway. I'm just going to apply a little bit of grease to this top part. Don't want to get any grease on here because that contacts the tape. I found that clip with the aid of a magnet. I'm going to try and feed it back on. Well, finally I got it. It's on there. So let's feed the belt back on. And it should be a line level output, so let's see what's going on. Okay, well, it only seems to work when the cartridge is pushed over to the right. And I had this problem with the last player I looked at, and it turned out that when the front panel was on, that pushed it into the right place. So I'm not going to get too hung up on that now. Instead, I'm going to give it a good clean before I put it back together. This track changing knob has had a bit of a scrape at some point, so I'm going to try and clean that up as well. And I think perhaps this clear piece will slide out if I remove these screws. Well, it won't because the plastic part has been added afterwards. That's just been glued in place using this metal piece. Now, have they glued that on there? Well, it's used double-sided adhesive by the looks of things. Or contact adhesive, more likely. No? What's double-sided? Well, removing that will let me get deep into these grooves and give this a proper clean. I'm going to try and sand out these scuffs. So this track selector button I'm just going to sand down. Well, that didn't take a lot, and there's marks on the outside as well. I'm just wedging this bit into the square hole so I can turn it. I'm not sure this really needs to be stuck down, but I suppose I'd better. Just going to use a little bit of E6000. I didn't want to scrape this old adhesive off because I didn't want to damage the black backing, because that would show through at the front. And this brace. And this does need securing. I couldn't get rid of all those marks without sanding away too much material. I think I have reduced them. For now, I'm just going to use hot glue, really for speed because I'm making a video, but it would probably be better to use epoxy and let it cure overnight. So I'm going to refit the knob. Might as well refit this plate because I'm done underneath here. Right, so now that I've refitted the fascia, will the cartridge reposition itself?
We're so excited about making a living, we forgot about making a life. And we forgot that the whole thing is... You talk about weather, you talk about...
Warm with my nose. And when she thought it was a song. Soft, sweet voice.
By the way, if you like what you're hearing, this is the sound of Bill Gaither, Heartwarming Records. And finally, I'm just going to clean up these plug contacts with a fiberglass pencil. Not really a repair in the end, but it's a testament to the build quality of this unit that it's still in perfect working order after 54 years. Thanks to Chad for sending it to me, and I'll put a link to his Instagram in the description. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.